Hello there, my name's Amy Van Zyl. I'm the Chief Executive Officer of HerCircle in Newcastle, and we're a charity who support women who experience complex motherhood, often women at risk of child removal and children who are then born into care. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about our service, our involvement with the book, and how we experience this in a women's service in the northeast of England. So we talk about complex motherhood in service, and we say that we work with women who experience complex motherhood, and that is mothering whilst managing challenges such as homelessness, poor mental health, substance misuse, sexual exploitation, domestic abuse, trauma, poverty, experience of the criminal justice system, or care. And these issues are not exhaustive of the challenges women might experience, but are merely representative. Women who experience complex motherhood are often at risk of child removal without sufficient support. Our work empowers women to overcome these challenges and to keep children safely in their care. So this is how we do the work that we do. We've got three pillars of work, and the first one is HerSupport. So we specialise in supporting women overcome the challenges of complex motherhood, and we do that through holistic support services. Our support is designed and delivered by women with lived experience. So all of the HerSupport team at HerCircle have all got lived experience of overcoming the challenges of complex motherhood, of being parted from their children in one way, shape or form, of overcoming that. And all of the women who work in the service today do have relationships with their children. And that's a hugely important part of the design and function of HerCircle. So women can come in and they can see that there's hope beyond where they are now, that they can recover and that they can have a relationship with their children. We also offer that support on a completely anonymous basis. So women can come in and access the peer support groups, domestic abuse courses. They can do all of these things whilst not giving us any identifying information. And that's really important because what women came to us and said was that when they first reached out for support, rather than getting the support, they were flagged to social services and assessments were carried out as to whether or not their support needs presented risk factors for their children and their vulnerabilities were weaponised against them to remove those children. So it was really important to us in the design of the service that that wasn't possible, and that first and foremost we were there to ensure the women's well-being in order to make it possible that they could start that recovery journey and those risk factors around them were reduced and safety was provided for the children. We also have an advocacy service, which is it's a dual role, and the dual role is split into two. And one of them is around really holding that woman holistically and being really trauma informed and understanding where she's at and what she needs and how we do that work really well with her. But the other half of it is pushing against the system that quite often works against women. And really shouldn't, but it does. And I'll maybe talk about that a little bit later on. The second area of work is research, and we partner with people like Karen Broadhurst and Lancaster University to elevate women's voices within research so that real lived experience and lived experience of recovery is informing the most up-to-date research in the country, and in this case, in this book, internationally. And then we turn that into the Her Impact pillar, which is all about systems change. It's all about policy change and the redesign of services to actually meet women where they need it. I love this slide. I show it everywhere that I go, and so you're getting it too. But this, for me, demonstrates the context that we sit in today. This is a graph from The Lancet, which was in the Child of the North report. And this is child protection registrations by type of maltreatment. And at the beginning of this slide, in the 1980s, when the Children's Act was written, the most common causes of abuse to children were physical abuse and sexual abuse. And under that, neglect and an almost non-existent level was emotional abuse. And then over the years, what we've seen is that physical abuse and sexual abuse have largely been maintained. And what that says to me is that there is always going to be a cohort in society for whom they would intentionally harm children. And for that, we need a child protection service. And I would say we need the one that was designed in the 1980s with that in mind. But this blue line and this green line is neglect and emotional abuse. And what you can see is though they have absolutely rocketed over time. And that neglect and emotional abuse are now code names for what we call complex motherhood. It's families with unmet health and social care needs, and those unmet needs present a risk to their children. We're not talking about intentional harm to children. We're talking about unintended harm to children because of the unmet health needs. And that's where we sit, and that's where we advocate from. So what does this look like in service, and how does this fit into talking about child removal? Well, this is an email that we got from a midwife in the last couple of weeks. I currently have a woman who's due to give birth in the next week, and social care have not shared with her that they're planning to remove the baby. I've asked the social worker to share this information with her prior to giving birth, but I've been told that they feel she's a flight risk and that they won't be sharing this information with her until she's admitted to hospital. The social worker has discussed this with our manager, who's in agreement. I feel that hospital is not the best place to have this conversation and feel that it's unfair to the woman to not share this information with her, as she thinks they are going to take her baby, but nobody's communicating that with her. What happens when we receive an email like this in service is that we have to have a coordinated response from all of the services who are around mum and trying to help her. And that's really hard to do. That email isn't uncommon. I've had it from every local authority in the Northeast in the last 12 months. Every single local authority at some point is labelled a mum to be a flight risk, and so they're not going to tell her until the baby's born. It's really common for everybody in the care team to not know what the plan is for mum when she goes in to give birth, and we all find out when the baby's been born. And this is completely unacceptable. This is why we have emergency hearings, which are absolutely inhumane. And I have gone into hospital with women a couple of days after giving birth. It's not the time and space for this to be done, and we do need radical reform. From my perspective, the inception of the Children's Act was made at a time where the landscape of what child abuse looked like was completely different. I think it is fit for what it was designed for, but things have moved on and we're now in a completely different environment. I think the priority of acting to safeguard the child is, in the way it's enacted, means that everybody who is connected to this system is now at greater risk of adversity. We know from this book what women are likely to go on to experience, but we also know from the statistics that social workers are falling out of the profession at an alarming rate. And it's unsurprising, if you are a practitioner who is doing this, that social worker will be feeling this. She will be feeling the fear of it. She'll be feeling the guilt of it. And actually, in this case, we anticipated she wouldn't do the birth removal and that duty officers would be sent in, because it's emotionally easier to manage that situation if you haven't made the decision and you haven't been part of the decision-making team. And that was what happened. Within a week, the mum had given birth, and duty workers were sent in, and duty workers gave her the information that her babies were going to be removed. We have got to have a better response than this. Legally, that team were fine. They were fine to do it. It's not great. It's not trauma informed. Goodness knows if that woman's going to go on to commit suicide. She's certainly at extremely high risk for it. But the local authority won't be held responsible for behaving that way. And there's no call to government to change any of the regulations around it based on that one case. I think those who are watching this video now, who are listening to this, who are reading the book and want to act on the recommendations, please do. In every single local authority in our country, we have hundreds and hundreds, if not thousands in some, children in care. And that means there's an equivalent of parents who are going through this. It's no longer a small minority of people. It's leaking into different areas of society, and it's a growing issue that we need to address.